All right, so our quiz on Wednesday is 3.5 and 3.6. 3.5 is solving systems of equations. So we can either solve with substitution or with elimination. Sometimes one way works better than the other, but most of the time either way will work. For number 1, what do you think I should do? Substitution or elimination? Substitution. Usually when you have like a variable is equal to all by itself already, substitution will be the best thing to do. So I have y is equal to and y is equal to. We always want to start with the one that doesn't have the squared variable. So I would take the second equation and plug it into what in my first equation? Plug it into the y, because y is equal to x plus 21. So I'm going to plug that into the y. So I'm substituting it into the other y. So I have x plus 21 is equal to x squared plus 5x plus 9. Now what would I need to do to solve? Set it equal to 0. So for all of these questions, almost all of them, we are going to have to factor. So we need it to be equal to 0 if we're going to factor. So this is a must. So we're going to move everything over to the right side to get it to be equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract x on both sides and combine it with its like term. And subtract 21 on both sides and combine it with its like term. So it'll cancel out on the left, and I'm left with 0. And then on the right, I have x squared. What's 5x minus x? 4x. What is 9 minus 21? Negative 12. Perfect. Now that it's equal to 0, we can factor. Do I have two factors of negative 12 that add to 4? Six and negative 2. Perfect. So here I have x plus 6 and x minus 2 is equal to 0. What would I need to do next to find what x is equal to?
0.
Set them both equal to 0. So x plus 6 is equal to 0 and x minus 2 is equal to 0. So what does x equal? Negative 6 and positive 2. So these are the two x's. But I still have to find the two y's that go with each of them. So I'm going to start by plugging in negative 6. Which one do you think would be easier, to plug it into the first equation or the second? The second. You could plug it into either one, but the one without the squared is always going to be easier. So we plug them in. So this will be y is equal to negative 6 plus 21. So what does y equal? Positive 15. So just like before when we wrote our systems of equations answers, we write it as a coordinate pair with our x first. So negative 6 comma 15 would be our answer. That's just one of the answers. I still have to plug in 2 also. So I can plug in 2 into the same equation. I can just plug it into x. So I have y is equal to 2 plus 21. So what does y equal? 23. So how would I write my answer? 2 comma 23. Perfect. So these are my two answers. Bless you.
Where'd you have,
All right, let's take a look at 3. So I can either solve with substitution or elimination. What do you think would be better here? Substitution. I have a y equals, so I can take that and plug it in. If I didn't have a y equals or x equals, I could always make this look like y equals and then plug it in. But the first one's y equals, so I can take this whole first equation, x squared plus 1, and plug it into what? Y. So we're substituting it into that y. Be very careful when you substitute it into that y because I have a minus in front. So it has to go into parentheses. So it'll be 2x minus x squared plus 1 is equal to negative 4. What do you think I would have to do next to solve? Distribute. We got to distribute that negative. So 2x minus x squared minus 1 is equal to negative 4. What do I have to do next?
Bring the negative 4 down.
I can add 4, move it to the other side, because I have an x squared and an x, so I know I'm going to have to factor, so it has to be equal to 0. So I'm going to add 4. What term does it combine with?
1.
The minus 1. So this would be 2x minus x squared plus 3 is equal to 0. What should I do next? I want to put it in standard form to make it easier to factor. So I'm going to put that minus x squared first. So negative x squared plus 2x plus 3 is equal to 0. Now we always like it when our x squared has a coefficient of 1. Does it have a coefficient of 1 here? No, it has a negative 1. How could I change that and make it a positive 1? How could I change it and make it a positive 1? Awesome. I can divide everything by negative 1 to make my x squared a positive 1, just to make it easier to factor. So this becomes positive x squared minus 2x minus 3 is equal to 0. So now we can factor. Once I have that positive x squared and it's equal to 0, I can factor. What are my two factors of negative 3 that add to negative 2? Negative 3 and positive 1. So this would be x minus 3 and x plus 1 is equal to 0. So what does x equal? Positive 3 and negative 1. Am I done? I have to plug those in. What am I going to plug it into? The x's. And I think that, honestly, in this one, the first equation might be easier to work with. But we can plug it into either one. I'm going to plug it into the first. Again, it doesn't matter, but because the first equation only has like an x in it, I think that would be easier. So we have y is equal to 3 squared plus 1. What is 3 squared? So y is equal to 9 plus 1. So what does y equal? 10. How would I write my answer? 3 comma 10. Awesome. Always x comma y. Am I done? What do I have to do next? Plug in the negative 1. So I can plug it into the first or second equation. Doesn't matter. I'm going to plug it into the first one again. So y is equal to negative 1 squared plus 1. What is negative 1 squared? 1. So y is equal to what? 2. And how would I write my answer? Negative 1 comma 2. Awesome. So these are my two answers. So what do I need to do first for number 5? Can I solve it with elimination? Do I have any like terms that are the same in both equations that I could cancel? No. So elimination won't work. So I have to do substitution. So if I'm going to use substitution, I need either an x equals or a y equals. Do I have one of those? No. But can I make one of those? Yeah. In which equation can I make a y equals or x equals? The second one. So we have to work with the second one. Since the first one we have x squared and y squared, I can't get that to be just x equals or just y equals. So we have to work with the second one. Which variable do you think would be easier? Y. Because y just has a coefficient of negative 1, which we can just easily make it y equals. If I worked with the x, I'd end up with fractions. So it's easier to make it y equals. So what should I do first to make this y equals? Move the 2x, so I'm going to subtract 2x on both sides. So negative y is equal to negative 2x plus 3. What can I do next? So I can divide everything by negative 1. And just flip the signs of everything. So y is equal to 2x minus 3. Now that I have y equals, what can I do? Plug it into the y. Perfect. So I'm going to plug it into the y in my first equation. So here I have x squared plus 2x minus 3 squared is equal to 9. So I just plugged it into the y. How do you think I can solve this? How do I square the 2x minus 3? What do I have to do? Because I can't just distribute the squared, even though everybody loves to do that. We cannot just distribute the squared. What is 2x minus 3 squared?
You have to do open parentheses 2x minus 3 close parentheses and then 2x open parentheses 2x minus 3 close parentheses.
So 2x minus 3 times 2x minus 3. And how do I multiply these out? I have to FOIL. So whenever you have a binomial squared, just write it twice and FOIL. So we start by multiplying the first. So 2x times 2x would be what? 4x squared. Then the outsides. What's 2x times negative 3? Negative 6x. What's negative 3 times 2x? Negative 6x. And then negative 3 times negative 3? Positive 9. And then that's still equal to 9. And then the x squared is in front. What do you think I have to do next? Combine like terms. So I can combine my x squareds. So this would be, what's x squared plus 4x squared? 5x squared. Then I combined negative 6x minus 6x. What would that be? Negative 12x. Awesome. And then what else can I do? I can subtract 9 on both sides. So the 9 cancels. So 5x squared minus 12x is equal to 0. How can I solve? So Joey says multiply the first times the last. Do I have a last term here? No.
Wouldn't the last term be 0?
It would, but there's a better way to factor than doing that. Because when you have two terms, you can't just multiply the first and the last. Do I have a GCF? Are you sure? X. My greatest common factor is x, so I can take out an x. What am I left with when I divide out an x? 5x minus 12. Now what can I do? Set 5x minus 12 equal to 0. What else needs to be equal to 0? X. So we set each piece equal to 0. The x gets equal to 0, and 5x minus 12 is equal to 0. Then I can move the 12. So 5x is equal to 12. And then divide by 5. So x is equal to 12 over 5. So these are my two x's. What would I have to do next to find y? Plug them in. So it's probably easier to plug it into the first one. Or the second. Probably the second. So I'm going to plug x into the x in the second equation. So I would have 2 times 0 minus y is equal to 3. We could have also plugged it into this equation too, because it's the same thing. These two are the same, just one is y equals. So when I solve, what's 2 times 0? 0. So I'm left with negative y is equal to 3. So what does y equal? Negative 3. So how would I write my answer? 0, negative 3. Awesome. So that's one answer. What do I need to do next? Plug in the other x. So I'm going to plug it into this equation here. But plug it into x. So I have y is equal to 2 times 12 over 5 minus 3. Our favorite fractions. How do I multiply a whole number and a fraction? Do what? So I can make it 2 over 1. How do I multiply fractions? Straight across. So this would be 24 over 5 minus 3. I can make it 3 over 1. How do I subtract fractions? What do I need? So we need a common denominator. So what can I multiply by my second fraction to make it 5? So I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by 5, so make it 15 over 5. Then we just subtract the tops together. What is 24 minus 15? 9. And then what's our denominator? 5. So y is equal to 9 over 5. How would I write my answer? 12 over 5, 9 over 5. Let's take a look at number 7. So here we're graphing inequalities. It's just like graphing quadratic, so our parabolas, but the only difference is here we either have a dotted line if it's less than or greater than, be a dotted parabola. If it's less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, it would be a solid parabola. And then also for these, we always have to shade. All right, so let's do number 7. So here my equation is in standard form. What's that little formula I use to find my vertex? Negative b over 2a. So this is my a, b, and c. So it would be negative 8 over 2 times negative 1, which would be negative 8 over negative 2, which is 4. So 4 is the first number in my vertex. How do I find the second number? Plug it in. So I plug in 4 into all of my x's. So it would be negative 4 squared plus 8 times 4 minus 12. So 4 squared would be 16. So negative 16. Plus, what's 8 times 4? 32. Minus 12. Negative 16 plus 32 would be positive 16. And 16 minus 12? 4. So the second number in my vertex is also 4. So I'm going to go to the right 4 and up 4 and put a point there. Not the answer. Remember, our graph is going to be a parabola. Is my parabola going to open up or down? Down. And is it going to be solid or dotted? Dotted. So it's going to open up and it's going to open down and it's going to be dotted. Because the negative x, yeah. Because my A is negative, so that means it opens down. How do I find another point on my graph? Picking a number that's close to the x. So what's something close to 4? 3. So I'm going to plug in 3 into x and then find the second number. So I have negative 3 squared plus 8 times 3 minus 12. So negative 9 plus 8 times 3 is what? 24 minus 12. 9 plus 24. Negative 9 plus 24 would be what? 15. And 15 minus 12? 3. So I plugged in 3 and got 3. So go to my graph, to the right 3, up 3. Once I have 2 points, do I know where my third point is going to be? Same thing on the other side of my vertex. Because remember, our vertex, we have an axis of symmetry that acts as a mirror. If I have a point that's 1 space away here, I also know that I'm going to have a point 1 space away on the right. And then we said our parabola was dotted because it's just a less than sign. So then what's the last step I need to do? Do what? Test a point. Yeah, we need a shade, so I'm going to test a point. What point do we want to test? We have to pick something either inside of our parabola, so something in here, or something out here. It can't be on the line of our parabola. Let's pick something easy. 3, 2. That works. That would be right here, so inside. So we can test 3, 2. So I'm going to plug in 3 into x and 2 into y. So 2 is less than negative 3 squared plus 8 times 3 minus 12. We actually just did this math over there, but it's fine. We'll do it again. So this would be negative 9 plus 24 minus 12, which we would get 3. Is 2 less than 3? Yes. So if it works, where am I going to shade? Inside. I shade where that point is, which that point was inside. So I shade inside. So 10 is already in vertex form. So what would my vertex be? Perfect. Negative 4, negative 2. So it's what we're adding inside and outside, but we change the sign of our h. So you go to the left to negative 4 and down negative 2. Is my graph going to open up or down? Down. Because my leading coefficient, that A, is negative. So we know it's going to open down. And is it going to be solid or dotted? Solid. How do I find another point on my graph? Plug in a number that's close to the axis of symmetry. We can plug in -3. So I have -1/2 times -3 plus 4 squared minus 2. So -1/2 times 1 squared minus 2. So -1/2 times 1 would just be -1/2. So -1/2 minus 2. How do I subtract fractions? What do I need? Common denominator. So what would I make 2 over 1? 4 over 2. Multiply the top and the bottom by 2. And then just subtract the top. So -1 minus 4 would be -5. What is -5 over 2? How do I know where to graph that? Well, 2 goes into 5 2 times. So it'd be 2 and 1/2, or 2.5. So it's in between, it'd be in between -2 and -3. So what number did we plug in? -3? -3 comma -2 and 1/2. So I go to the left to -3 and down 2.5. Once I have 2 points, do I know where my third point is going to be? Where? Perfect. Same thing on the other side of the vertex. And then I can connect my 3 dots. I already said my graph was going to be solid because it's a less than or equal to, and it opens down, so perfect. Last thing I need to do is shade. So when I shade, how do I figure out where I'm going to shade? We need to test a point. What point can I test? Sure, -4, -4, that's inside there. So -4 is going to go into x and into y. So I have -4 is less than or equal to -1/2 times -4 plus 4 squared minus 2. So -4 is less than or equal to. Make sure you follow your order of operations. What do I have to do first? The parentheses. What's -4 plus 4? 0. Then we got to do the exponent. What's 0 squared? 0. And what is 1/2 times 0? 0. So I'm left with -4 is less than or equal to -2. Is this true? Yeah, it's true. So where am I going to shade? Inside. Since our point that we picked was inside, I'm going to shade inside. What do we keep our answer when we have 2 graphs? The overlapping part. So whatever is overlapping that's shaded, that would be our answer. All right, let's look at which one do you want to do from the last part? Let's do 12. So we have to solve the inequality and shade on our number line. What do I need to do first to solve here? Set it equal to 0. So bless you. So we know that we're going to have to factor, and when we factor, it has to be equal to 0.
Wait, we're taking a quiz?
So these two should always be the same signs. So this is part of our answer, the number line, and this is our answer.